Bushtown, New Jersey, and the heat of high summer. Terms which have become as one for the past 23 years. By the sweat of your brow is given a new meaning here each July. There is no room for the dilettante, for those who place comfort above achievement. But this year, under the cooling light of a nearly full moon, it was the evening shadows that held the magic. First came young Pat Austin, edging to the starting line for his final qualifying attempt. He and his machine were up to the challenge as they assumed the #1 position with a 4.91 second elapsed time. Understandably pleased, Pat was nevertheless realistic.
There's still some good cars left to go. Let's hope we keep it.
If Austin ever leaves drag racing, he might consider fortune telling. For the next man up was Kenny Bernstein, the only driver to have exceeded the 300-mile-an-hour barrier. That done last March in Florida. Last night saw the second ever such run, plus the lowering of the #1 position to 4.88. The ET was impressive, but it was the blistering speed that fired the crowd's imagination and Kenny's reaction. 300 miles.
Yeah, all right, fantastic. Oh, I was hoping, and we were all hoping, especially Dale and Wes and the team. That's great. That's outstanding. We've been wanting to do this since Gainesville, believe me.
But this is a sport of quickness, not speed. And the last man to reach for the ring well understood that. Ed McCullough charged through the darkness. And in so doing, he set yet another and final low ET, 4.85.
Everybody's been working real hard. You know, we're just proud as punch to have the McDonald's car on the pole here.
We're proud of you.
And thank you. We love it.
So the fields were set. Racers and spectators alike have now turned their attention to daylight competition at the NHRA Mopar Parts Summer Nationals, presented today on NBC Sports World. Welcome to New Jersey in July. That fan feels pretty good, even though we are getting a bit of a break in the weather. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans. It's not 95. It's only 85 today. The humidity down to a dry 88%. So it's not San Diego. We'll take it. Working with me today is a man who has won 3 NHRA Top Fuel World Championships. He's won this race back in 1985 and returned at this very race this weekend as a car owner. Of course, I'm talking about Big Daddy Don Garlits. And a lot of racers are calling his new Swamp Rat 32 an engineering marvel with its beautiful single-stand wing. Car ran pretty good, too. He and driver Bruce Larson qualified well, but earlier today, they got sacked by world record holder Eddie Hill. But Big Daddy took defeat as a car owner a lot better than he ever did as a driver. Maybe it's because he has his day job to fall back on. Well, Don, you were looking forward to working with a torque wrench in one hand and an NBC mic in the other. Just have to settle for the mic, I guess.
That's going to be it, Steve. The mic's going to be. We're real happy with the way the car run, and we think it'll be doing better in the future.
Well, you'll be interviewing crew chiefs today. Maybe you can pick their brains for some speed secrets, huh?
You bet.
See you then. They're not about to tell him everything. Well, without any further ado, let's join up with Big Daddy Don Garlits. He's finally got on the right shirt.
Well, Steve, it's this track surface that made me so happy when I was wearing that other shirt. But, you know, this track has made a lot of drivers happy over the years, including myself back in 1986 when I became the first official NHRA record holder of over 270 miles an hour right here. Last night, no exception. The cold air came in from the ocean. The track was biting. The tuners, the crew chiefs, the drivers, they could make no mistakes. But, you know, a situation like that can be dangerous on race day, especially like today. Hot, humid, getting hotter every round. The drivers and the tuners are going to have to be very careful. And to win here today, you're going to either have to be a mechanical genius or have one great big bag of tricks.
Well, here's a young man, Scott Coletta, who's hoping he's got both of those. We're in round 2 of Top Fuel action, and he has the dubious honor of racing that #1 qualifier from last night, Ed McCullough.
And he has got a bag of tricks. A 485 is nothing to be sneezed at any racetrack.
But as you explained earlier, today is a whole different set of circumstances. Now, the Summer Nationals marks the midway point in the 18-race NHRA Winston Championship season. So let's check in on the top fuel points. Kenny Bernstein leading Joe Amato by a little over 500, followed by Prudhomme, Austin, and Hill. They're a lot closer than they might seem, though, because every round of racing is worth 200 points. There's bonuses for qualifying and setting records, but basically it's 200 points around. Ed McCullough, you didn't see him in the top 5. That's because he's clear back in 8th place, Big Daddy. So far, a disappointing season.
Yes, sir, and he wants to make it up today, and he's got a really good chance.
Yep, Ed McCullough, his first season in a top fuel car after 20 years in a funny car. Scott Coletta, he has bounced back and forth from the family funny car to the top fuel dragster. Still hasn't hit his 30th birthday. Ed McCullough, the big 5-0 last year. So it's Coletta in the near lane, hoping for the upset over the quickest car of this entire Summer Nationals event, Ed McCullough.
Well, Scott will have to take a starting line advantage if he wants to make any kind of a showing at all against the ace.
Oh, I absolutely agree. He'll be drilling a hole with his vision in that bottom yellow bulb. As soon as they see yellow, they're gone. Coletta, the last to stage. Coletta looking good. Coletta could no. Ed McCullough has the performance on the other end of the racetrack of 496 at 287. That beats a 503 at 283. But it was a lot closer than the numbers indicate because Scott Coletta did get that starting line advantage, just not quite enough. Now, the man in this red car is surely counting his blessings because earlier today in round 1 competition, it was Michigander Jack Ostrander paired up with the king of speed himself, Kenny Bernstein. Here is how Kenny Bernstein saw that race thanks to the onboard camera. Jack Ostrander streaks away from Kenny Bernstein. And why did that happen? Well, Big Daddy, he lost traction.
Well, he went up in smoke because they did not adjust for that hot track condition.
Well, Kenny Bernstein at the far end of the racetrack, well, it was absolutely decimated. Losing in the first round is about the worst thing that can happen to you in drag racing.
Yeah, first round losers is the wrong way to go when you're trying to win a championship, that's for sure, Steve. But, you know, we just went up there and left it the same from last night. Figured the track would be real good, and hopefully it'd run another nice number. And it's good up there. We just overpowered it.
Bernstein's crew chief, Dale Armstrong, was every bit as perplexed.
Yeah, I don't understand it, Steve. The car is exactly like it was, and I mean, the track's pretty tight now, and we had it nice and soft leaving. It really shocked me to see it smoke the tires.
So now Jack Ostrander will meet up with this tough young man in his sophomore season of top fuel racing, Corey McClanahan from Southern California, the winner of the Mid-South Nationals in May.
Well, Ostrander has never won an NHRA national event, and he's running very well at this one, Steve. Maybe he's on a roll.
And getting a little bit of luck against Kenny Bernstein ought to help his confidence. He, too, has problems with traction. Ostrander shuts it off, and burning a motor to do it. Corey McClanahan wins at 5:01.
This is NBC Sports World. And today, it's brought to you by Mopar Parts and the Chrysler Plymouth, Dodge Truck, Jeep and Eagle dealers who sell and install them. By Craftsman, a line of 1,600 hand tools, made in America, guaranteed forever. By Goodyear, #1 in tires. And by Castrol, engineered for today's smaller cars.
And teammate of Ed McCullough. So that Larry-minded team has dominated qualifying in top fuel and funny car. We're still in top fuel competition. We'll be seeing the funny cars a bit later on. Right now, we have got Don Prudhomme against Pat Austin. And Big Daddy, in the qualifying video we showed from last night, you can see those long nitromethane flames out of the exhaust headers. Don't see them at all in the daytime.
No, they're invisible in the daytime, but they're still there. It's just as hot, and the engines are making tremendous horsepower this afternoon.
And there is the quickest car on this day. That is Pat Austin. He ran 4.87 against Michael Brotherton in round 1. So you can throw out qualifying. That right now is the guy to beat. Pat Austin, Tacoma, Washington. His opponent, well, Don Prudhomme is #3 in the points. He won Columbus in June, runner-up at Montreal 2 weeks ago. The Snake was on a roll until he got here Thursday, Big Daddy, and he had one scary ride.
He sure did, Steve. A connecting rod came out of the engine, went through the tire, it blew, it caught on fire. The Snake did a masterful job of controlling the car, keeping it off the guardrail, and a minimum of damage.
Well, I talked to him just seconds later. He was as cool as ever.
Apparently it threw a rod out and blew a tire out of it.
How bad's the car hurt?
I don't know yet. I was really concerned. I wanted to get it stopped as soon as I could because, you know, it's important that we didn't do a lot of damage to the frame. We can fix the rest.
The car had virtually no damage whatsoever, thanks to good driving on the Snake's part there. Don Prudhomme beat up on Connie Collette in round number 1 and is now up against Pat Austin. Austin has lane choice. Austin has all the cards. Free stage. Snake right with him. It's Pat Austin with his second 4.87 second run of the day and big problems in the back of the car. There's no smoke and there's no fire. You hear a lot of grinding sounds. My best guess, it might be a clutch. Don's with Pat's dad, Walt Austin.
Easily the most impressive car in this round and the first round. 487 a pair.
Well, we're really enjoying it, but I want to be the most impressive car in the last round.
You bet.
Well, Walt, I thought from a fireworks standpoint you were in that round. He didn't even seem much concerned about that. I think he knows that it's not a big deal, even though it was kind of pretty. Watch the car on the left-hand side of your screen. 4.87 seconds, drops Prudhomme here in round 2, and then all of those sparks start flying around the back end of that race car. What do you think, Big Daddy?
Well, it's for sure the clutch, because that titanium is the only thing that will make that kind of sparks in the daytime, and he's really lucky it didn't happen a little sooner. The Snake could have got right by him.
Oh, absolutely. It was that close. Well, Pat is still down at the far end of the racetrack with his crew, still celebrating and as unconcerned about that clutch problem as his dad was. I'm sure they'll have a good look at it. They field strip these cars right down to almost the bare frame between every round, and we'll check on it a bit later for you. Well, there on the starting line is Buzzy Carter, crew chief for the world's quickest driver, officially. Eddie Hill, Wichita Falls, Texas, at 4.80 seconds. He'll be up against the winningest top field driver of all time. Sorry, Big Daddy, but he is now. The 4-time champion, Joe Amato.
Well, he comes into this round, Steve, at a disadvantage. He does not have the lane choice. Hill was faster the previous round.
Joe Amato right now, I'm sure, is consumed with the fact that Kenny Bernstein is out. Both he and Eddie Hill, for that matter, could benefit greatly here today. In fact, should Amato win this race, he would close that gap to almost nothing between himself and Bernstein. But first, he's got to get by the nuclear banana, as Eddie Hill calls this yellow car. Eddie and Ersie Hill, what a team they are, along with crew chief Buzzy Carter. Of course, Tim Richards cruising the car you're riding with right this minute, Joe Amato. Amato, he never even sees Eddie Hill. The crew loves the number, his best of the event, 4.88 seconds. That'll shake up Mr. Bernstein. Don's with Tim Richards.
You did something to that car, Tim.
Well, that's the run we were looking for in the first run. We needed to do something. Eddie is a plenty tough customer, and either go for it or park it.
Well, the elapsed time says they went for it. All right, the semifinal pairing. Number 1, we'll be seeing Joe Amato versus Ed McCullough. Amato now has the lane choice. Pat Austin, the quickest car of the day, up against Corey McClanahan. Austin will have the lane choice. Joe's here out of the car. 488.
Yeah, it was a good run, boy. We're time to step up. You know, it's trying to rain on us. We're staging and all, but the A team is still in the battle here. With Bernstein out, it really giving us some room here to try and make some ground up.
Well, that 488, he's certainly challenging the 487 of Pat Austin. He's in the hunt.
And we are now into round number 2, the first pair in round 2 of Nitro Funny Cars. The same noise level, the same horsepower, about 5,000, but a dramatically different kind of automobile. And there is Tom Hoover doing his burnout. Much shorter wheelbase. There's the number 1 qualifier, Cruz Pedregon. Engine in front of the driver. Maybe a bit harder to drive, Don.
I don't know. They scare me.
I never wanted to drive one. Here's how the Winston points stack up at mid-season. John Force, 7,300. Cruz Pedregon, 65. A fair lead there. Al Hoffman right in the hunt. Del Worsham and Tom Hoover, who's got big problems right now. Boy, this could hurt him in the points. That machine is silent. It has been shut off.
And under NHRA rules, Steve, he will not be allowed to restart the machine. It will be a single for Cruz Pedregon.
Is that amazing? You're the number 1 car in this entire event. You get the luck to go along with it. And it's a shame for Tom and George Hoover, his 85-year-old dad who builds those engines. They won the Phoenix race earlier this year. They were sitting in the 5th position in points, as we showed you. But here's the big benefactor, Cruz Pedregon, the number 1 qualifier, the winner in Houston. They've had a lot of bad engine luck with that car, along with great performances. Seem to have cured that problem, though. There is Tom Hoover in the car. Big Daddy is caught up with his father, George.
You know what happened? No. How do I know? They just quit.
Hey, Big Daddy, I told you earlier, loose lips sink ships. These guys aren't going to tell you anything.
That's a fact.
All right, here we go. Cruz Pendragon. He will go for lane choice. That means he needs a quicker elapsed time in this round than whoever his opponent will be in the final four. Pendragon. Lane choice. He almost blows the tower over here in Englishtown. The second quickest run in history at 5.12 seconds. He owns the quickest of all at 5:10. Obviously, his crew chief, Larry Meyer, knows what he's doing.
Larry, how fast can that thing go?
I don't know. We're working on it.
Didn't look like it whiffed a tire even.
No, it was pretty soft on the start line, and we figured out how to make it out and run out in the middle.
Good.
Thanks.
And mostly they figured out how to make it stop blowing up out in the middle. Steve is with Cruz at the far end.
You know, you don't need luck, Cruz Pendragon, or single runs when you're capable of a 5:12.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, I'll say.
Yeah. This car is it's a great car. We just had a little problem earlier in the weekend, but the front end was up, and I was really having to drive at that time. It was a handful, but I knew it was on a good run, so I tried to stay with it. But it was a great ride.
Wish I could have gone along with him. Pat Austin dragster was really a chain reaction inside the bell housing. Now here's the pressure plate on the clutch. You can see where that's worn. Well, that started making minor contact with this titanium liner that is pressed inside the bell housing for an extra margin of safety. So imagine now, this was rotating inside this. Both are made out of titanium, and nothing sparks like that lightweight metal.
Well, the clutch is the heart of the Top Fuel and the Funny Car. Both vehicles carry the identical unit.
Well, there's a car with a big fan base here. Chuck Etchells from Connecticut races an awful lot here at Raceway Park and on the National Event Tour. And he is up against a tough customer. Even though it may not be the newest funny car on the grounds, it is one of the quickest. That is Gordon Mineo. For years, the fans have called him Flash Gordon. And he came very close to a big payday back in March at Houston. Had to settle for runner-up against Cruz Pendragon. Chuck Etchells, well, Etchells broke through as far as a national event victory 2 years ago here right at the Summernationals. So Chuck Etchells will be in the near lane. Gordon Mineo over in the far lane. This track has been absolutely perfect. It is so smooth that it yields a tremendous amount of traction even under these very humid conditions, Don.
Well, Chuck Etchells has a performance advantage coming into this round with a 5:27 to Mineo's 5:34. Let's see if he can maintain that type of a performance level.
Mineo had a very poor start. Mineo pulls off. Chuck Etchells improves with a brilliant 5.25 second elapsed time, 277 miles an hour. Chuck Etchells cruises into the final four. Meanwhile, they're busy back in the Pat Austin pit. That is his brother Mike putting finishing touches on the automobile, including a brand new clutch inside a brand new titanium bell housing. The parts we talked about, well, they'll just throw those away.
That's a fact. All of that will just be thrown away. You cannot take a chance with that type of safety equipment.
All right, the next pair here at the Mopar Parts Summer Nationals features Mark Oswald in that Dodge Daytona up against, the fans will like this, John Force, the points leader, and I think there's no argument. He is a fan favorite wherever he goes.
He's got to undoubtedly be the most favorite driver on the grounds. He will bring the crowd to his feet every time he comes to the starting line.
Mark Oswald, the 1984 Winston champ, he has won here at the Summer Nationals in a funny car and in Top Fuel. In fact, back-to-back years, 83 and 1982. Now, both these teams have been struggling just a little bit here. Oswald has not been able to get a hold of the racetrack like he should. John Force has not produced the numbers his crew chief Austin Coyle is capable of. Brilliant start by Force. There you see Oswald up in smoke. John Force wins it, and he now becomes the second quickest car here at Englishtown this weekend with a 5:21. Don Garlitz is with his crew chief down on the starting line, Austin Coyle. Big Daddy?
Looked like it might have nibbled one, Austin.
We've been having that problem a lot here lately, and we think we're going to need to make a cylinder head change in order to solve it, but we got to get through this race. We can keep doing this. We can go a little faster, too.
Right. Well, they're going to have to go a little faster because Pendragon's got almost a 10th on them. Steve is with John Force.
Well, John, this car hasn't run this well without burning itself up in a long time. At 20 the round before, at 21 now.
Well, I can tell you the truth, Steve. Starting to get a little bit aggravated.
This McDonald's deal, miners, we know there's a lot of money over there, but we're going to throw some of our cash at them, and they're really making me hot. 512s out here, you got to hand it to them. They're doing good, and we're just going to step on this heap if we got a burner. Simple.
Got his attention.
Well, they certainly know how to burn it if they have to, and they can make some power when it's necessary.
Well, the last time they burned one down, they took our onboard camera with it. We can only cross our fingers that doesn't happen with Al Hoffman as he races Del Worsham here in the second round of funny car competition. Del Worsham is the youngest driver on the funny car circuit at just age 22. This is his sophomore season, and he is the defending Summer Nationals champion. Won it all here last year on Sports World. Al Hoffman has been knocking around this sport forever and is finally really breaking through. He won his second event in 1992 a few weeks ago. He ran 5:21 here in round number 1. He could win it all.
He sure could, and he'd like to because he's well in this Winston's points hunt.
All right, Al Hoffman. Woo, and look at Worsham go. That's why. Tire smoke of the Hoffman car as Father Chuck says, yes, headed for the final four to 532, 277 miles an hour. Let's have another look at what happened here to Al Hoffman, Big Daddy.
Well, another crew chief bites the dust, misjudges the traction on this Englishtown track, and the hot pavement bites them. Watch the tires give up right away. A sure sign it got too aggressive with the clutch management, and they brought that clutch in too soon, and the tires would not stick.
One of the few mistakes his crew chief Tom Anderson has made all year long. So in the semifinals, we'll see Cruz Pendragon versus Chuck Etchells. Pendragon will have the lane choice. Looking forward to that one. Semifinal number 2, John Forrest versus Del Worsham. Forrest has the lane choice. Well, Del, you're the defending champion. You're still alive, but not real quickly. Really? 532.
Yeah, I don't know. We blew it up last night. It hasn't been running too good ever since. We'll keep working on it.
You had to be afraid of that BDS car. It ran much quicker than you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we were just out there hoping he'd make a mistake.
And he did.
Thank goodness.
Sometimes that's how you win races. You just be there.
Well, here for the semifinals of Pro Stock is Ricky Smith in that Pontiac. And in a Chevrolet Lumina, it is Bruce Allen, who won just 2 weeks ago in Montreal. The Pro Stock category has offered such intense competition all year long. Let's take a look at the points. Right now, here's how they stand. Jerry Ekman at 69.92, Warren Johnson at 66.96. You see Jeffrey on Allen and Larry Morgan. Now, we could see a new points leader before this race is over because of what happened last evening. This was Jerry Ekman, the points leader, in his final qualifying attempt. You saw the car do that little sachet? Well, that cost him just enough time to not make the Summer Nationals field. A disaster for Ekman.
It shook so hard. I about had to lift, even get it to stop shaking. I knew I wasn't going to get on that session. We just had trouble all weekend.
You have a 1,000-point lead, and it's a good thing.
Well, we've lost 50 of it because somebody's going to have low ET. I think it's Warren. I don't think that'll be beat. So maybe we'll get some breaks for tomorrow's race. You never know.
Well, that 1,000 points was before competition began. The standings we showed you are right up to date. Warren Johnson already has about 600 of those points back. But they're all going to have to contend with the man in the yellow car, Bruce Allen, running better than he has in a couple of years. Now, his competition, Ricky Smith, is not in the top 5, but he's a major player in this points drama. This was earlier. Why was Ekman's car over in Ricky Smith's pits? Because they took the motor out of it and plugged it into Smith's Pontiac. The engine was not the problem. That wasn't the reason he didn't qualify. That had to do with clutch and suspension. So one of the strongest motors in the sport that has won 4 national events this year is under the hood of Ricky Smith's car. And look who's a very interested spectator, Jerry Ekman himself. Why would you loan a guy a $100,000 motor? Well, you hope he'd go out and whip the competition, keep them from earning any points and catching your lead. Ekman looking on. And so far, it has paid off. Let's go to Don Garlitz down on the starting line to talk to Jerry about this whole Pro Stock engine deal.
Why would you loan your motor to Ricky Smith? He might get some of your secrets.
Well, he's got some of our secrets already, but, you know, it just goes to show you, Don, that's the motor we didn't qualify with, and he's out here winning races with it. It's amazing, isn't it?
Ekman's gambling, and it's paying off. Steve?
Well, Ricky, you're going to the final round, but it doesn't have anything to do with the Pontiac partnership with Ekman. The car slowed down a bit to 729.
Well, I might not have the clutch right. We just tried to take a hit at it, you know. He got a little more power than we got, I think. You know, I don't know. We just had to wait and see.
Go get him, Ricky. Well, there's the funny car driver the whole sport is talking about, Cruz Pendragon, who has the seat in this red rocket. Can it go quicker yet? In our continuing coverage of the NHRA Mopar Parts Summer Nationals, huge crowd on hand. I'm Steve Evans along with Big Daddy Don Garlitz, and we are looking in the funny car pit of Del Worship, Big.
They're putting a brand new clutch in there. That's a standard procedure on all these cars in this day and age of this high-powered racing. It's done for two reasons, Steve, both performance and safety.
Speaking of performance, here's the final race of the semi-bundles of Pro Stock, and that's the man the Pontiac guys are ganging up on, Warren Johnson in his Oldsmobile. If he wins this event overall, he will take the points lead away from Jerry Ackman. First of all, of course, Warren Johnson has got to get by Bob Glidden. Glidden is winless so far this season. I can't remember a year he hadn't won a race by this point, but not in 1992. So now the Pontiac guys, Jerry Ackman, Ricky Smith, they're hoping Glidden can take Johnson out.
Well, Glidden will have a lot of Pro Stock drivers cheering him on in this round. Something unusual for the winningest Pro Stock driver in NHRA history.
And Glidden is doing a great job. Whoa, just by a car length does Warren Johnson go to the final round at 7:29, 188 miles an hour. Was Bob Glidden there? You bet. 7:30, 190 miles per hour. As we go back to the Thunder Up Top Fuel, you're riding on the wing way up there with Joe Amato.
Well, it's an area I wouldn't want to ride on, but these cars burn the tires like this to heat up the rubber, to get some nice traction so that they will not spin the tires coming off the line. Let's go to Steve with Warren Johnson.
You know, the Pontiac guys are ganging up on you a little bit, loaning motors back and forth. How do you feel about that?
Well, there's a lot of people trying to gang up on us. You know, we're a little bit faster than everybody else out here right now. So, you know, everybody is like, you know, the OK Corral. There's one gunfighter there, and everybody's trying to take their best shot.
Slap leather.
Well, I think Warren's taking that rather nicely. You know, you'd think he'd be a little upset.
He's done it himself, Big. The final pairing will be Warren Johnson versus Ricky Smith. Warren will have the lane choice, but right now, what a matchup. Ed McCullough, who needs another one of those 480s like he had in qualifying, to go wheel to wheel with Joe Amato, who ran a 488 the previous round.
Well, Ed McCullough's going to have to dig back in that bag of tricks and get that 485 because Amato is good for repeating.
Oh, Amato smokes the tires. But his crew is the one celebrating because Ed McCullough left the starting line an instant too soon. In his lane, you see the red light. It is Joe Amato going to the final round. What a huge break for the Amato team. Let's have one more look at this. He had problems staging, Big Daddy.
He certainly did. We noticed the top stage light had went out, and the car left just a little too soon, and that disqualifies you in NHRA competition. What a break for Joe Amato. They put too much power in the car. It smokes the tires. They were trying for that 485 that they knew Ed McCullough was capable of, but it didn't work, and then it did work. What luck.
Well, only the driver knows what happened in a situation like that, Ace. Can you tell us?
I don't know. I just pulled in there, and I was probably in a little deeper than I should have been. Time to go, and I left.
Red lighted by only 0.02 of a second, but to the benefit of Joe Amato. Amato did not know that you had won.
I never saw his red light. My car smoked the tires and shook, and I shut it off.
Yeah, he was just overstaged just a little bit.
Oh, talk about a blessing from heaven. I come over to congratulate you. I thought you won, buddy. I'm sorry. Jeez. I never saw him. You know, I'm concentrating on that tree. I guess I'd rather be lucky than good any day.
Hard on both drivers down here. This one was.
Well, what a break for Joe Amato. He advances into the final and has an opportunity to really catch up on those points.
And who is he going to race when that time comes? Could it be Corey McClanahan? Or, no, it will not be Pat Austin. Austin, you saw his brother there, total disgust. When he stepped down on the throttle, something blew up big time.
Big time is right. $40,000, $50,000 engine, bit the dust. The fuel delivery systems on these cars are so intense, it is really difficult to get that transition when you step down on the burnout to be perfect, and this is the result. An entire engine is blown up on the starting line. Here we'll be able to see it a little better on the slow motion replay. We'll see the yellow flame sticking up out of the headers. That's unburned fuel. That means the combustion chamber is not burning the fuel. Too much accumulated in there, causing a hydraulic condition, and the engine explodes.
Watch Mike Austin, the frustration of 4 wasted days here in northern New Jersey. Pat Austin is out. Corey McClanathan will have a single run. And this whole kind of semifinal, final 4 round-down has taken some weird twists.
Well, it sure has. Amato's been preparing himself all day for the run against Pat Austin in the final. Now it's going to be Corey McClanathan.
McClanathan giving it everything he's got. Pat Austin looks on, not a very interested spectator. Corey Mack, a 4.99, which obviously gives him lane choice over Joe Amato. Don Garlits is down on the starting line with a very frustrated young driver.
Do you have any idea what might have happened, Pat? Did it feel funny?
No, it's the same thing. Gremlin's been biting us all year long. We really not sure what's going on, but what can you do? It's the hardest loss I've ever had in my life. We had this thing locked up. I mean, not locked up. We were running good enough to win the race. I don't know what to say. I'm just disgusted.
I'd be disgusted too. 2 487s in a row and then have it blow up. Steve is at the far end with Corey McClanathan.
You're going to have lane choice in the final.
Yeah, but you know Joe, he can step up at any time, whoop me.
And I'll tell you, Corey knows how Pat Austin feels. He's had a lot of expensive breakage this weekend. Well, not a lot of people would have picked this exact final, but there it is in Top Fuel. Joe Amato versus Corey McClanathan. McClanathan has the lane choice. Every fan in the place wants that man's autograph. John Force, and even though he's still in competition, he's obliging. Mopar Summer Nationals here on NBC Sports World. I'm Steve Evans along with Big Daddy Don Garlits, and it is time to literally make the earth move with the final 4 of Nitro Funny Cars. And the first pair features that moving fog bank, Chuck Etchells. And he is up against, well, the baddest funny car in the sport today. Cruz Pedregon, the Larry Minor-owned Oldsmobile out of Hemet, California. The big question is, can this current driver continue their back-breaking performance? You know, Chuck Etchells is no stranger to the winner's circle here at the Summer Nationals. He won it back in 1990. But you know what? I never got to interview him in victory because something else was going on that distracted us. It was Johnny West, his opponent in the final, unconscious, roaring down the wall, head-on into an embankment. We were obviously concerned with Johnny West's safety. He was okay, released from the hospital about 2 days later and is back in the sport. But poor old Chuck Etchells, we never got to catch up with him as he congratulated the Top Fuel winner, the late Gary Ormsby. Well, Chuck, you're going to have to win 2 more rounds, and maybe we can make up for that.
Well, if he can win this round, Steve, he can probably win the whole race because this car comes into this round with a 5.12 elapsed time.
And of course, he's talking about Cruz Pedregon, the man who's got them all paying attention, especially John Forge, as you heard earlier. Far lane is Etchells, near lane is Cruz Pedregon. Etchells is ahead. Etchells has won it by a foot, a 5.22 to a quicker 5.19. That can only mean one thing. Etchells had the better reaction time right off of the starting line. Let's go down to that starting line. Don Garlits is with his crew chief, Maynard Yanks.
You better pin a medal on that driver.
I'm going to pin a big medal on him. He got us by this one. That's probably the fastest car in the country right now in the funny car ranks. And for our driver to pull us through on this, I'm hunting for something. I still can't find any more ET, but our driver pulled us through. Thanks.
Yeah, they are operating as a team, that's for sure. Don Garlits, as we look at the replay, I don't think either one were really that quick off the mark.
No, they weren't. You know, Etchells took a good lead. He was ready for the 5.12, but he didn't really squeeze the tree. I think what really happened, Pedregon saw his teammate red light earlier and was just playing it a little safe because he had such a terrific elapsed time, but didn't expect Etchells to run quite as good as he did. And so you see that little bit of difference between the reaction time and the ET makes the difference.
Maynard Yanks is a fine crew chief on this automobile, but Chuck Etchells, take personal pride in that one. A whole shot won it.
Well, it's about time. I mean, I let the guys down a couple of times this year, both times against the hamburger stand. So that's good. You know, it's good for once I can do my job.
A 5.22. Nice performance.
Boy, we were hoping to run quicker than that, but we'll take it.
Yeah, don't get greedy. Let's see who will race in the final round.
Well, you can tell that Chuck Etchells is looking for a little bit more performance, which he probably need against John Force.
Are you so sure it's going to be John Force in the final? He's got a race Del Worship here.
If you hear what Force said in that earlier interview, he's going to get after it.
That's right, no matter what it costs. Now, Del Worship hasn't had that strong a performance. He's been right there kind of middle of the road the laps time-wise. They blew up an engine early in qualifying and never really recovered from that. If he's going to step up, it has to be now. Worship with a tremendous head start. Worship takes out John Force. A 5:30 to a 5:24. John Force has literally shot himself in the foot. The right foot. You could visually see the difference. It was incredible.
Very seldom in this modern high-powered racing do we see such a difference on the starting line where it's so visible even without the high-speed cameras like we have right now. John Force is 2 car lengths behind Del Worsham. Either he had some sort of a mechanical failure or he just flat went to sleep. Here we see the 1400s that he gave up on the reaction time could not be made up with the 600 better EP that he had.
Well, John, you saw Cruz go out. You thought the door was open. Unfortunately, you couldn't take advantage of it.
Big old giant Cruz driver's error there. What can I say? Playing around on the starting line, I was so excited about Cruz. Should have kept my mind in my own lane and tried to pedal her and rolled through the light, took my foot off, and the kid was gone. And driver error. I needed one of those. Get my mind right.
John, no excuses for us. He won't be in the final, but Chuck Etchells and Del Worsham will. Etchells will have the lane choice. Time here at the NHRA Mopar Park Summer Nationals. That's the Oldsmobile Pro Stocker of Warren Johnson headed to the lanes. He'll meet up with Ricky Smith. And here in the Corey McLaren at the top fuel pits, Big Daddy, I'm told even when they get the engine back together, they're not going to test fire it. That's unusual.
It is. They usually fire these engines, but it's a warm afternoon and there's a little shortage of time, so I guess they're going to try to make it without them.
And they're not that long on parts either. Okay, here we go. The Funny Car Final, the first of our professional finales, and it'll be the defending champion back again, Del Worsham. He will be in the bar lane. Up against Chuck Etchells. You got to consider Worsham a little bit of an underdog.
Yes, you do, but you know he's got through every round so far by just being there. So maybe this is his lucky day and he won't be a bridesmaid again.
Hey, we called Worsham an underdog last year, and he whipped Mark Oswald in the final round. Maybe we ought to get off of that. All right, here we go. Pre-stage, both drivers taking their time, getting positioned perfectly on the starting line. It is Etchells winning the Summer Nationals for the second time in 3 years in a 5:24, 279 miles an hour to Del Worsham's game, but short 5:45. Let's have one more look, Big Daddy. It was pretty even right off the mark.
Yes, it was. Del Worsham might have taken a slight starting line advantage, but it wasn't enough to see with the naked eye. But from there on, it was Chuck Etchells. He began to gain a little bit in the initial start of the race and began to pull away as the cars reached the half track. And then the power of the Etchells motor came on strong and drove completely away.
That one hole shot today, though, made all the difference.
Well, I can't really take all the credit for that. I was really just on time. Cruz was real late. Maybe he saw McCulloch's red light in front of him or something. It scared him. I don't know. But you need to catch a break to win these races. And being from, being a New Jersey race, nobody beats the Wiz, Mother's Performance, Mopar Performance, Super Winch, Kendall Motor Oil, Snap-on Tools. I mean...
that's the whole litany. Congratulations.
That's the whole litany, Steve, and thanks. That gets us even for being short 2 years ago.
We're still making up for that.
Thanks.
Sometimes you have to have a better memory for the list of sponsors than you do on how to drive the car.
How true. As far as points are concerned, Cruz Pendragon only picked up 50 points on John Force, his bonus for low elapsed time. Chuck Etchells, however, is moved into 6th, and Del Worsham into the 4th spot. Here comes the Joe Amato car, ready for the top fuel finale against Corey McLaren. Begin for our Funny Car champion Chuck Etchells here at the NHRA Mopar Park Summer Nationals, but we've still got 2 finales to go. Pro Stock and Top Fuel. First up will be Pro Stock. Warren Johnson with that Oldsmobile up against Ricky Smith with his Pontiac. Now, they have elected to leave the borrowed Ekman engine under the hood of Ricky's car. I stopped by early to see what they were doing. It may take a clutch performance by that man, Ricky Smith, to beat Warren Johnson. And I don't mean the old sports cliche. I mean the actual clutch between the transmission and the engine. Ricky is trying to get the bell housing off. Meanwhile, inside the car, his 19-year-old son, Matthew, is ready to go to work. Matthew, that clutch is going to be your responsibility?
Well, it's about mine and my dad's.
So what do you think? What are you going to do? Have you decided?
We don't know yet. We're going to look at a computer sheet.
All right, well, they're trying to get a readout on the computer right now. My guess is they'll loosen it up a bit.
The clutch, again, the heart of these racing vehicles, just like in Top Fuel and Funny Car.
Well, the reason I say they might loosen it up a bit, if the clutch is too tight, you shot the tires, you get it loose. That's what happened to Ekman in qualifying. In fact, there is Jerry Ekman. He can leave here the points leader as he came if Ricky Smith could beat Warren Johnson. Remember, Ricky Smith has never won an NHRA national event. He's been runner-up 4 times. Ricky Smith is doing his job, a huge hole shot, 0.08 of a second. Ekman cheering him on. Oh, it is Warren Johnson. Ricky Smith loses a clutch right at the finish line, but I don't believe that was a factor. How about Warren Johnson, 7:21 to a 7:30, and you couldn't pick him without an instant replay, Big.
Boy, but watch that starting line advantage by Ricky Smith. Warren Johnson was just a little bit asleep on that one, and Ricky Smith certainly took advantage of it. And it looked like it was going to be all Smith as they motored down. But then the Warren Johnson engine began to come on as they neared the finish line. And it's just my opinion that a possibility that clutch in Smith's car started to give up a little bit earlier, allowing Johnson to just barely take the win.
Now, Ricky Smith had 800s off the starting line, but Warren Johnson had 900s in performance. Here you can see the difference. Whoa, what a race.
But that clutch coming out of Smith's car certainly had to be a factor, because we saw the sparks as the car crosses the finish line, but there was damage occurring prior to that, so that would slow Smith down just a little bit at the end. Once again, the clutch makes the final decision.
You weren't sure, though.
Yeah, it was by a mile.
Yeah, really? You needed all of a 7:21.
We felt we could run a 20 or a 21 in a final. We made some changes, kind of like we had run the 20 and the 21 in the evening sessions before. We felt Ricky's going to try every trick he knew, which that's why they call him Tricky Ricky, but his AC Delco Oldsmobile buried him.
He made you stage first. You were taking no chances on a red light or making a mistake up there.
No, I can stage first to last. That doesn't bother me at all. Some of these guys have to stage one way or the other, and it don't make a damn bit of difference to me.
You've won the Summer Nationals. You've taken the points title. What a weekend.
Perfect. Except for the 50,000.
Well, that was yesterday.
Well, Warren Johnson is referring to the special pro stock competition yesterday that he went out early in, and Larry Morgan won the $50,000 first prize.
Well, for the first time this season, somebody besides Jerry Ekman is on top of the points, and that, of course, is Warren Johnson. The two of them starting to outdistance the rest of the field. Oh, boy. You're on board with Joe Amato. Joe Amato and Corey McClanathan. You got to maybe go with Amato just on depth of parts and personnel, Big.
I want to go with McClanathan. He's young. He's a leaver. He's got to win this race. You know, he's won a national event already this year. I don't think Amato can cut him any slack.
Well, as far as the big names are concerned, let's look what happened in the semifinal. I mean, McCullum, Pendergun, and John Force all go out with mistakes in one round. I haven't seen that in a long time. Bernstein goes out in the first round, smoking the tires. So you're right. Anything can happen here. Let's ride with Joe Amato because we can. Straight and strong. It is Amato with a ball of fire for the runner-up, Corey McClanathan. Joe Amato has won the Summer Nationals for the second time in his career.
We see the fire coming out around the head of Corey McClanathan's car. He obviously blew a head gasket. That's what we saw. Not real serious damage, but enough to put him out of the race. They'll get down and put a few extinguishers on that, put it right out, but nothing to be concerned about.
Amato's time in the final, a 5:01 to a 5:18, and I think of the replay, Corey Mack had used up Joe Amato the first half of the racetrack, was ahead of him.
He certainly did. He took a starting line advantage that he could certainly be proud of, but it was down course where the head gasket comes out. You can see it starting to go right now, and that's where Amato makes his strong move. Lots of smoke coming out, and then the fire, and it was all Amato. So let's take a ride with a motto, with the in-car camera on the wing, if you please, to see just what it's like. He steps on it, the fire comes out of the pipes. 5,000 horsepower there, folks. That's a lot of power.
Joe, you didn't try to murder him, you just tried to beat him with a 501.
It's the name of our game, steady. You know, that's how we win championships. You know, Bernstein's out there running 300, and we're just trying to be steady. You know, when you have all that power, it's easy to smoke the tires. We just struggled all weekend to try and get it down the track and pay dividends.
And you were virtually deadlocked now with Kenny in the Winston points.
Well, that's what it's all about. You know, we struggle a little bit, he struggles a little bit, but I'm sure it's going to come right down to the end. You know, it's a real pleasure for Team Valvoline and Keystone and Key Parts, and we've been steady all weekend.
Congrats, second win this season.
It's a little payback. Last year we drove them out of red lighted, so this year I was a little nervous, you know, against LaHaye, so paybacks are good, and God looks over you all the time.
Indeed.
So, for Don Garlett, I'm Steve Evans saying so long from Englishtown, New Jersey for NBC Sports World.
This has been NBC Sports World, and today it was brought to you by Goodyear, #1 in tires, by Autolite Spark Plugs, guaranteed for 2 years, no matter how far you go, by Sony, where imagination and innovation create the ultimate in auto sound, by Mopar Parts and the Chrysler Plymouth, Dodge Truck, Jeep and Eagle dealers who sell and install them, and by Craftsman, a line of 1,600 hand tools made in America.